I know we're all doing the same thing. We've been token maxing on that 5th cup of coffee, squeezing Fable dry before Anthropic closes the door again in a couple of days. This is what my Fable looked like. It hired 7 agents to do the job I just gave. We don't get to keep the model, but what we can keep, I'm handing it to you on a silver platter. The prompt was one of those big upvoted Reddit posts. What to do before Fable goes away. And it all starts with Fable writing assignments and dispatching agents, each one running off with its own task. The reports come back condensed, every worker burning its own context and tokens, so the lead agent doesn't have to. If I wasn't paying attention, I would have missed this one small detail. Use multi-agent orchestration. Fable didn't invent the organizational structure out of thin air. It was doing exactly what I'd been doing for the last 6 months. Honestly, it makes complete sense. Half the builders online are publishing coping strategies. Crank the effort to ultra plus max, hand your model a routing table so it delegates to a cheaper one. The thing is, those strategies absolutely work. People are running benchmarks and they're getting results. I'm no different. However, there's a reality underneath. The reason those tricks even work. Look closely and you'll see that the skill file, routing table, and effort settings are all just written briefs. A subagent's whole existence starts as a written brief. When I studied philosophy in university, we called this a thing's ontology, its fundamental nature of being. The old story is oversimplified. Lose the model and you lose the capability. Now, if that were true, nothing would work. A skill file written for Fable shouldn't do much for Opus. It's still the cheaper and inferior model. It transfers because the intelligence is being extracted from the articulation. When Fable ran the subagents, that wasn't really the impressive part. What was impressive was the decomposition. It took one paragraph of somebody else's prompt and it turned it into scoped, cohesive assignments. So naturally, I wanted to hear from Opus itself. I asked it, can you do the subagents in a delegation the way Fable does it? Opus said, absolutely. This is native to Claude. A quick history lesson. Around 370 BC, Greek philosopher Xenophon writes about a shoemaker's shop. One worker cuts the leather, another stitches, and a third binds. His rule was that if demand is deep enough, the man on the most specialized task does it best. In other words, split up and delegate your work. Now let's go ahead and test that idea. We're going to have Opus delegate the way Fable does. Here's what the most important file in this setup looks like. The skill is a description that tells the lead agent when to hand this worker a job. Then we have a tools list. The scout reads and searches, but it doesn't write, so its blast radius is 0 by construction. The file itself has no code. You own this layer. Anthropic owns the weights. The file is yours, and it's pure articulation sitting in your repo, and it'll still be there whichever model is on the terminal. This is fine in theory, but how does it hold up when we run it? 3 repos, 1 question. What's redundant across all these? Repo Scout delegates on the left. 1 agent is told to ignore it on the right. Just to be clear, both terminals are running Opus, but something happened that was unexpected. The singular agent won. It was faster and it caught the distinction that matters. Buried in the repo's documentation, a migration plan linked another repo as its shipped successor. The agent that was orchestrating on the left lost for a structural reason. The question was about a relationship between projects. Each scout is locked inside one repo. The isolation was the failure mode. If the job splits into pieces that don't need to see each other, you should delegate it with Repo Scout. If the job is about how the pieces relate, what's redundant, what supersedes what's secretly the same project, well, that stays with a solo agent. Delegation isn't a setting that you just leave on. Now let's look at the same pattern at the scale that it was made for. 7 dense repos, a skill library for everything. I ran it once and it broke my tokens, but it built the actual library I now use. It's what caused me to FOMO into the max plan for just this month. The workers readily burn through their own context windows. But that's the reason Repo Scout beats doing everything in one session at this scale. The reading doesn't fit in one head anymore. Context is the scarce resource, and orchestration is how you spend it on judgment instead of on search. So here we are. I'm giving you Repo Scout. Grab it from the link in the description below. Fable's going away, and I'm not going to pretend it doesn't suck. It's the best model I've ever used. But when I watched it send that work out, what I was seeing was a master delegator at work. Decomposition, scoped roles, bounded tools, and mandatory reports. Every piece of that is articulation, and articulation is the key to everything. The one constant. You don't own the model. This week was a brutal reminder of that. Come to think of it, wouldn't it be nice if we could carry this over to Codex 5.6? Drop the first subagent you define in the comments, the name and its one-line job description. I'll tell you if it gets the job done. Subscribe and hit the bell, because the next one takes this pattern past Claude entirely. One master, many terminals. I'm bringing Codex and Claude into the same crew, and your terminal becomes the mainframe. I'll see you then.